All right, let's dive in. Today, we are unraveling a story that absolutely went viral. It's this brilliant mix of science, equity, and, well, a tough dose of reality. We're talking about color-changing surgical sutures. So it all kicks off with this simple but really powerful question. Could something you find in any grocery store, like a beet, actually be the key to preventing deadly infections after surgery? It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but this is the real-life question that sparked a truly groundbreaking idea.
And the person asking that question? Dasia Taylor, a 17-year-old high school student from Iowa City. Back in 2019, for a science fair project, she came up with an invention that would pretty soon capture the whole world's attention.
Okay, so let's get right into it. To really get her invention, you first have to understand the problem she was trying to solve, which is the very, very serious threat of surgical site infections. According to the World Health Organization, a staggering 11%, that's more than 1 in 10, surgical wounds in low and middle-income countries get infected. This is a life-threatening problem on a massive scale, and the solutions that were out there just weren't reaching the people who needed them the most.
Now you might be thinking, don't we already have smart sutures? And yeah, we do. There are these high-tech ones that can sense an infection and ping a smartphone. Fantastic, right? Well, the problem is they're super expensive, and they rely on technology that just isn't available everywhere. Taylor saw this as a huge equity gap. And this brings us to her brilliant and almost shockingly simple solution. Taylor developed surgical threads dyed with, of all things, beet juice. Why? Because beet juice naturally changes color when it's exposed to the exact conditions of an infected wound. It's simple, it's visual, and it's accessible to everyone.
So how in the world does this actually work? Let's get into the science, because it's actually really elegant. It all boils down to one simple chemical principle.
And that principle is pH. Remember that from chemistry class? It's just a way to measure how acidic or basic something is. Our skin has a natural pH level, and that little number is the key to this entire invention.
And here is the genius insight. Healthy skin is naturally a little acidic. It sits at a pH of about 5. But, and this is the important part, when a surgical wound gets infected, the skin's pH changes dramatically. It jumps all the way up to around 9. Taylor realized this pH shift could basically act like a biological alarm bell. The process is just incredibly clever. The sutures start out bright red from the beet juice. If an infection starts to set in and the skin's pH level rises, the beet dye reacts. In as little as 5 minutes, those bright red stitches turn a dark purple. Think about that. No electronics, no Wi-Fi, just a clear, unmistakable visual sign that something is wrong.
This invention was never just some cool science experiment for her. For Taylor, the why was just as important, maybe even more important, than the how. This whole project was deeply rooted in a mission of equity.
In her own words, she said she couldn't help but go at it with an equity lens. Her background in community advocacy directly shaped her scientific work, pushing her to find a solution that could work for everyone, everywhere. And her focus was incredibly specific and important. One of the first signs of infection is redness around a wound, but that can be so much harder to see on darker skin tones. Her color-changing sutures, they offer an objective signal that works the same for every single patient, directly tackling this disparity and aiming to improve outcomes for Black people and for patients in developing countries. So, of course, the world took notice. Taylor's project earned her a spot as one of just 40 finalists in the Regeneron Science Talent Search, which is one of the most prestigious high school science competitions in the entire country. Her story went totally viral. It was this perfect tale of a brilliant young inventor changing the world. But this is where the story gets a little more complicated. As the invention moved from the science fair stage into the harsh light of the medical world, it met with a really serious dose of reality.
Experts like Dr. Catherine Chu, who's a surgeon and a director at the Center for Global Surgery, praise the idea's inspiration, but they also immediately pump the brakes, saying that translating it, quote, from the bench to the bedside needs further testing.
And pretty soon, medical professionals started raising a bunch of critical challenges. For starters, the cotton blend thread that worked so well with the beet dye, it's braided, which can actually create little hiding places for bacteria. Then there's the fact that the color change would only detect surface infections, not the deeper, more dangerous ones. Plus, real-world wounds are messy. They get stained with blood and iodine, which could totally hide the color change. And finally, surgeons use dozens of different kinds of sutures for different tissues. One size just doesn't fit all.
The discussion online was, well, even more blunt. One Reddit user, who claimed they were on a team that reviewed the project, delivered this really harsh verdict. Almost zero clinical benefit, wholly unrealistic to standardize, and not patentable. It was just a stark contrast to the media celebration.
So was it all just hype? Not at all. See, this isn't a story about failure. It's a story about what it really takes to bring a medical innovation from an idea into the real world. It's about surviving what you could call the innovation gauntlet.
The critiques don't make the initial idea any less brilliant. What they do is they highlight this brutal, rigorous, and completely necessary process that every single medical breakthrough has to go through.
And this really gets to the heart of it. A successful science fair project proves a concept is possible. It's elegant. But a viable medical device, that has to prove it's safe, effective, cheap, and that you can actually manufacture it at scale. These are two totally different challenges. And you know, Dasia Taylor's story did not end with that science fair. She is now the founder and CEO of a medical device company called VariegateHealth, and she's still pushing her ideas forward. And maybe even more importantly, she has become this powerful advocate for women of color in STEM, inspiring so many others.
And all of this leaves us with a really big question for all of us. In a world that just loves a simple, viral success story, how do we celebrate that initial spark of a brilliant idea while also understanding and respecting the long, difficult, and often disappointing road to making it a reality?